thought about taking some of your retirement monies that's not in the TSP, maybe an old 401k, an IRA, etc., and rolling it into the TSP? Well, if you have, then stay tuned for this FERS Federal Fact Check. Today we have a great question from Dee that came in, and Dee writes in and says, "Hi, I've been working under the federal system for 3 years and will retire within the next 5 years. I'm 62. I've had a good amount of money in a 403B from a previous employer, 25 years worth. Is there any disadvantages or advantages to putting my 403B into the TSP? Thank you for your time and your podcast." Dee, you're most welcome. We have really big goals out there to get great information out to federal employees about planning their federal retirement. So thank you guys for sharing this and spreading this information. Let's jump into Dee's question. All right, so Dee's talking about moving money from different retirement accounts. So one of the first things before we move money to different retirement accounts, there's two things we have to look at. The first one is taxes. That's right. Come on, we can't have a little video without talking about taxes in some way, right? So in our taxes, we have our 4 different tax buckets. Ordinary income, which is the worst type of taxes to pay. Then we have tax deferred. Now, ordinary income is like your paycheck that you're getting today, right? That comes on a W-2, that's taxable today. Tax deferred is going to be like a TSP account, like an IRA account, 403B account, 401k account, etc. All tax deferred. I don't want to pay taxes today, I'm going to defer it to the future. You also have a couple other categories, capital gains, and then my favorite, tax-free account. That's right, where we pay 0 taxes on the growth. Easy example of that is going to be a Roth IRA, Roth 401k, Roth TSP. So why do taxes come into effect? Because Dee brought up an interesting question. She would like to roll over money from a 403B into her TSP. So if you called up your 403B provider and said, "Hey, I'd like to roll money over to my account," what they're going to do is they're going to send you money, and then you have 60 days to put that money back into the TSP to not avoid taxes. So let's say she had $500,000 inside of her 403B. You then would get a distribution, and then you have 60 days to put $500,000 back in. Question is, how much is she going to get? She's going to get $400,000, not $500,000. Where did the other $100,000 go? Did you forget about your favorite ant? Oh, come on. We have Ant Iris, right? The IRS. There's a mandatory 20%, which in this case is $100,000 tax withholding when you do a rollover. A rollover is when you send money from the plan to you, and then you have to get it back into the employer, the new employer plan. You want to remove the word rollover from your vocabulary. You only want to use the word transfer. Now, I know this is going to seem a little bit like semantics, but I promise this is really, really important. Now, I know the TSP website also talks about rollovers. I know 403B websites also talk about rollovers. I also have to deal with when people do rollovers and make mistakes. If we only use the word transfer, transfer in this instance only means moving money from one retirement account to another. So step one, understand the taxes of what we're doing. Understand what terminology you got to use to make sure you're not making a 6-figure tax mistake. All right, that's step one. Step two, we got to talk about distributions, right? When do we need to take the money out? If we need to pull any money out, if we need to live up any money in the next 5 years, boy, I could make quite the argument that we should not be putting that 403B money into the TSP. Because is the TSP bad? No, the TSP is phenomenal. It is a phenomenal growth accumulation tool. It allows our money to grow. We put money in every couple of weeks. We get a dollar cost average. We have low expense. We have 5 good funds that you can choose from on how to invest the money. This makes the TSP very advantageous for growth. What are some limitations of the TSP? Because something's really good at growth, sometimes it's not great at preservation, and sometimes it can really falter in distributions. So as we're 62 years young, saying, hey, I want to retire in 5 years, boy, now we have some distribution questions. How can you pull that money out of the TSP? The TSP has some critical issues with it, in my opinion, about how to take money out. We teach a class called the 3 critical concepts you need to know before you retire, and I get into that in depth. Just for simplicity, it has some limitations in there. Take my word for it for right now. So that's the first question I would ask, is saying, hey, if I need this money out in the next couple of years, maybe the TSP is not the place for it. Second, another thing you should be thinking about. So a pro of the TSP, again, low fees, dollar cost averaging, simplified investment, love it. What would be a downside? One of the things, if you had a former retirement account, I would be looking to do is called a Roth conversion. What is a Roth conversion? I would take a portion of this 403B and I would convert it into Roth IRAs. What's the downside of that? Anytime we take money out here, you're gonna notice I went to this ordinary income, we gotta pay taxes. But I've been moving out maybe 10, maybe 20, maybe $50,000 at a time and start putting it into a Roth IRA. Why? Because then as it grows 100% tax-free. If we put that money in the TSP, we cannot do internal Roth conversions in the TSP. So it's a downside. So D, you really got to look at your situation and say, great, what am I planning for? You know what? I want to let this thing ride for the next 10 years. I don't really care what it does up and down. I'm not going to look at it. Maybe the TSP is a good choice. I want to do tax planning. I want to take distributions out in the next couple of years. I want to have a little bit more control of my money. Maybe the TSP is not the place for all of the money. This is now where we get the benefit of using both. This is why understanding your federal employee benefits is so important, because it's not as simple as just one answer. So often there's many things that we got to go through. If you need questions like this answered, then make sure you jump on our website, planyourfederalretirement.com. Submit your questions and you could be featured in the next FERS Federal Fact Check. Until next time, happy planning.